Ladies and gentlemen, now I want to talk about Seven Deadly Sins Origin, the good, the bad, because there is plenty on both sides. There are some big concerns that people have about this game, but also as somebody that loves Seven Deadly Sins, I played Grand Cross so much, done like 1,000 videos in the pandemic, and has got very deep ties to, the world of Seven Deadly Sins. I love this game, man. This game is so incredibly fun. And it is one of those things where the combat, at first it feels a bit weird because it's not really that intuitive and there's a lot of resources to manage in terms of kind of switching and also managing like all of the cooldowns on abilities and how things synergize and how you sequence, and also like melee versus range characters and what you can get away with on certain bosses. And then you also have the burst mechanic as well. But when all of those things start to click and come together, I genuinely believe the combat actually starts off pretty awkward, but then once you get a really good elemental team, and I think the starting team is very clunky to play. I am really not a big fan of kind of the fire team that they push you toward, because a lot of the abilities that you fire off don't really like work that well in the practicality of dealing with boss fights where you have to move quite a bit. And you've got a character like Tiore who has like a channeled, fire breath ability, and you've just got to dodge things, right? You don't have the ability to stand there and channel it, or you enhance the normal attack, and if you do normal attack combos, you've got to get to the end of it, and generally you just don't have the time to, wait around and do that, or you just getting hit. And a lot of Tiore's normal damage, and generally for any basic combo as well, it requires, you like 3-5 seconds, you gotta stand still. So out of the starting characters, I just found like the lineup a little bit clunky, and I can completely understand when I see people that have done, a video talking about their experience in the first like 5 to 10 hours, how they're like, oh, it feels a little bit awkward. I'm not really too sure what's going on, because it's also got like a very different fundamental combat theme to, I believe, Genshin and a lot of other gachas. And I do not have a lot of experience with Genshin. I just played at launch for probably about like 20-30 hours, and I remember it was a lot of like different elemental synergy. You want lightning and fire and just kind of like mixing and weaving these different elements, whereas the strategy so far in Origin seems to be focused around a variety of mono teams. So you've got like the Earth team with Diane and Elaine, and that one is incredibly powerful. You've got like a Frost team with Jericho, and there's also more of a Fire team with Slater and Gila as well. So, there are other fire characters that come into the mix that make it a little bit more playable, but fire is probably my least favorite team as well. But there's kind of like 8 different ways that you can kind of currently build elemental teams based on the character roster. So yeah, there's a lot of different things you can do with who you're pulling in. And also every single character has like 3 different weapons which affect their skill set. And on certain support characters, for example, like Hendrickson, like his first weapon will make him a light character, his third weapon will make him a darkness character. So there's a lot of flexibility with certain characters. And you also see that just all sorts of characters, like this one's like light or frost. So there's a lot of like differences and ways that you can switch around and get like additional value from a character based on having an additional weapon. And it's very easy to get characters up to level 30 and unlock the 2 additional weapon slots. That's probably one of the simplest things to do currently in the game, especially when you reach level 15 and world level 2. Then yeah, the resources are moderately easy to get by just killing like very easy open world bosses. So yeah, that's kind of like a big goal for the game, is you really just want a partial mono team so that you can achieve these elemental bursts and kind of put opponents into a state where they're just taking an insane amount of additional damage. And then also via using darkness characters like Meliodas, you can also corrupt an elemental burst and kind of extend it a little bit. So it's very fun when you get these combos going, but there's no really like, or at least I don't remember, obviously, a tutorial that kind of explains this to the player and helps them understand. Because you have games like Honkai Star Rail where, you've got the training gym, and it teaches you all about various interactions in the game, and you just don't really have that with Origin. One thing I also really like as well is the ability to like counter and stun bosses. When bosses like flash up blue, you can swap in a character in order to stun them, and then in certain bosses that like lowers their defenses, so you can either freeze or petrify them. So the combo potential once you start learning fights is really satisfying. I've done the Red Demon probably like 100+ times now. I'm still really enjoying doing that fight and just optimizing it. So yeah, like the combat for me is a bit weird to get into. I don't really love the starting team, but I think once you get a really good team that clicks, it feels really good. And that team for me is the Earth team, man. I absolutely love Deanne, Elaine. Like, this combo feels incredible. This is kind of my main team for just blasting content. This has got through everything in the game very easily. Deanne is just kind of the main carry. Elaine, Daisy, support characters. And then Meliodas is just like the big heal, burst damage when I need him. But Deanne primarily is just the absolute MVP, man. She is such an incredible character. She's so tanky. She's got so much damage output, and yeah, tons of control as well. So she's just a little bit ridiculous. But I'm really enjoying playing around with Deanne. One of the characters that I really haven't seen too much of yet, that I've heard the least about, is King, and I really want to be able to pull a King before the end of the beta, because again, he's one of the favorites from original 7 Deadly Sins, so would be fantastic to get him. Now, that's a little bit about combat. Now, one thing about the open world in this game, dude, like, Leonis is amazing. I just want to like glaze the capital. It's just like, it just feels so incredibly cozy. And when you go into Leonis, this is like a multiplayer environment. When you're out of this capital city, you're in your own world unless you invite other people, but in the capital, you're with other people. So generally when you see people, like they'll just start like spamming abilities, and everybody will just, you know, be whipping out characters and flexing and just doing all sorts of weird things. But there's also people just kind of AFKing and chilling. But yeah, the capital just feels like very alive for the most part. And I love like the giant taxi. You might have seen it in the background of the video as well, but it's just kind of knocking about. Generally, when you go down to the market square here, there's generally people kind of knocking about. You've got a few essential game vendors as well. You got like a token trade-in. There's like daily resources. There's a cooking vendor up ahead. There's a lot of like miscellaneous things to do with crafting and professions in this game. So if you're somebody that likes to, you know, basically just explore the world, craft loads of things, you have the option to do that. But it also looks like I think you actually will need, regardless, to engage in crafting in some capacity in order to organically get the spell beads, which are legendary enchants. So yeah, there's just a bit of gathering around the world. The map for finding things is actually quite alright in comparison to some very barren games that I've played. So what you can do with any resource if you're looking to find it is you do have the ability to like open up your inventory. If I'm looking for, let's say, what resource am I after today? I'm looking for something raw here. So let's say like I'm after some silver ore, right? I open mining. It will show me the nearest place that I can actually get that resource. So alongside pins on the map, it's very easy just to like drop a load of pins down for where resources are on a daily basis. So that makes it easy if you want to pick up stuff like silver ore, gold ore. You can just kind of, you know, go out into the world and find some of those, which is very nice. But yeah, finding the navigation, pretty good so far. I would imagine the meta for this and finding things is that when the game releases, somebody will release a mega map, and then you just take all the pins from that map and probably just put it in your game based on what you're looking to farm, and then kind of just remove the things that you are no longer interested in once you get past those certain progression points there. So yeah, It's pretty cool. Now, Leonis overall extends not only this kingdom, but also this area south as well. And then you have this island over here where you have a boss, which is a pretty sick boss. It's this kind of like turtle boss. I don't believe I've done a video on it yet, but this is one of the cooler bosses. The world, generally speaking, has some fairly mid bosses. Like, they're not really anything special. Like the Werebear Chieftain, the Moss one, the bird, nothing too special. The Screamer, and also this, what is it? Squid Lady, nothing too special. The Toad's pretty cool. Generally, I think every single zone has like a slightly more like fancy fight, you know, where there's actual more mechanics going on and phases and things you've got to deal with. But outside of that, a lot of the big bosses really are in the boss challenge or the co-op mode of gameplay. So boss challenge, there are currently 5 bosses. You've got the Red Demon, the Grey Demon, you've got the Guardian Golem, you've got the Albion, and you've got Drake. The Albion Mutant is probably the only one I really don't enjoy farming that much, just because it's a bit awkward. It's alright, it's not like it's hard or super painful once you get used to the fight. It just feels like a little bit tedious after a while. So there are some quality of life improvements I really like to see there. I actually don't love the Grey Demon as well. He's awesome from like a cinematic standpoint, but from a practicality of farming him standpoint, he spends like half the time just like in the air darting about. But the Red Demon is so much fun to farm. Just cooking this boss feels great. Guardian Golem, pretty fun to farm. And Drake as well, very fun to farm. There's a lot of really good kind of like intercept stun timings on this, which make this one feel great. Now, one really interesting thing as well is the multiplayer dungeon. So I believe there's going to be like 3 different dungeons in this game. And this one, Into the Mines, is so much more than I kind of expect. I was just expecting like a boss instance. You go in and it's this spider boss, but it's like you've got to fight him initially, and then you go on a minecart, and then you need somebody with Gil Thunder on your team, because when you're on the minecart, you can skip ahead and save out on a load of time, load of trash, if you've got somebody with Gil Thunder that can throw lightning spears to change the track of the minecart. So it's pretty cool. But yeah, I imagine over time, over large amounts of repetition, maybe that part becomes a little bit annoying, but the first time novelty of it, it felt very, very cool. I've done it like a few times now. So yeah, I like the co-op dungeon, and I like that all of the bosses that I just went through in this one, you know, you can just play with friends. You know, if you're looking to play on Discord, or if you're looking, you got a missus, a friend you want to play with, like, you have the ability to do that. As somebody that's probably going to be like a bit of a sweaty grinder as well, I imagine I'm going to be able to carry people through higher difficulty. So I think that's something that always feels very cool when you collect these incredibly overpowered characters and you can bring people through more difficult content and get them some like really, really good rewards. So yeah, overall, there's just like a lot of like cool bosses to do, but it's also kind of in the wider picture. Everything so far feels like a healthy amount of content for game release, but there's also even more things coming. So this is kind of where the beta is locked up to at the moment. It cuts off halfway through this region. So we're going to go up to Wind Cove Waters, Furzon, Sand Valley, Leonis Northfront, Desert of Memories, Silent Desert, Vanya, Soulgress, and Sealed Domain. So just in terms of like additional zones, I actually think like just hovering over, you get a bit of an idea of like how fleshed out these zones are. Maybe Sealed Domain is like not quite ready yet, just maybe by the amount of like collecting objectives you can see in the top left hand corner. So potentially the game and the world have a lot of room for growth. And there are so many characters. If you have played Grand Cross, if you've watched 7 Deadly Sins, they have so many characters, so much content. We've got Escanor, Merlin, Gotha, Barn. None of these characters are currently in the game. We have all of the commandments as well. You know, we've got Grey Road, we got Droll, we got Glocks as well. So I think, you know, there's just a lot of updates that could happen that could be very, very exciting. And will this game survive long enough to get to, you know, Assault Mode Meliodas, the one Escanor? Who knows, dude? Who knows? But that could be a day that eventually comes in the future. We've just got kind of the starting ground for characters at the moment. So I'm liking a lot of what I see with the Foundation. So now, I'd really like this game, right? I really do. But I also want to give it a fair shake and go through the criticism. And one thing I have initially, the Fairy King Forest, this zone is too big. There is so much wasted space, especially up here and all around here. Kind of like this central middle bit is really well populated. But the outside of it feels like Power World. It feels very like just generic environment in Unreal Engine. And there's like not a whole lot going on there. So one thing I will say about that is that this game has been in development for 5 years. And this is, you know, potentially another perspective, potentially extensive copium. But what I like to think with the Fairy King's Forest is after this zone, there is no other zone that comes that is anywhere close to as big as Fairy King's Forest. So I think this is something they made a bit too early on. And it was just like, it's just big, it's just there, but then they realized to really make good zones moving forward, they need to kind of scale down the size of them so they can pay more attention to detail in the later zones. And I think, you know, they've got some very iconic things coming from the anime, especially moving up to Vanya and Solgras as well. So yeah, I'm really hoping that those zones feel really, really good when we get there. But Fairy King Forest for me, like the center of it is really cool. It's really nice, but the outskirts, dude, are just, they're dead. There really isn't much there at all. And it feels like it could be half the size. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is just like the general clunk of the game. There's a lot of scenarios where there's kind of like invisible boxes around objects for the purpose of kind of climbing and navigating. So objects are like a little bit bigger than they actually appear, and you tend to like hover above certain things as well. So if you're somebody that, you know, gets really annoyed by the fine details of things, this game is probably going to have a lot that is going to trigger you in the open world. Personally, for me, it's sometimes a little bit annoying, but I still find, like, especially in Leonis and this starting zone, there's kind of like enough love and care and interest kind of put into the world that it keeps me engaged personally. But that is like a general criticism I've seen, especially with the climbing in certain areas. The climbing can be like very annoying and awkward. And on the closed beta, we've been given this flying mount via a quest. I'm not too sure how easy it will be to obtain one of the flying mounts when it comes to the live version of this game, but I imagine they're going to be a little bit of a grind to get initially. However, there are these things with characters. So every single character has their own like unique passive ability, and a lot of these can be used for navigation. And one of the most interesting ones actually kind of allows you to access flying early, and this is like a pretty common character, and this is an OC for the game. He's called Bug, and his passive ability, it's probably the best passive ability in the game. He turns into a bug and then you can fly. So all those really annoying things to reach, even if flying mounts aren't that accessible early game, he can reach them, but he doesn't have like massive, stamina reach and endurance on being able to get places. So might be a little bit slower than just having a regular flying mount, but for some of the treasures that are like in the air, this guy is absolutely goated for the exploration there. So yeah, having access to that early, and also various other tools for flying, hopefully is just going to reduce the friction that people feel kind of navigating the world moving forward. Because yeah, I don't think it's as polished as other open world games that I've played. But again, why am I playing this game? Like, what's really doing it for me? It's just the combat, man. The combat, the characters, the power fantasy of just smashing through things with Diane, Meliodas, and eventually Escanor, dude. I am very, very excited for the potential of what Escanor could look like in this game. Because, yeah, Escanor, they just always cooked so incredibly hard in Grand Cross. And I have high hopes that we are going to get an absolute banger Escanor that's going to have, like, the craziest fire team synergies ever and just go incredibly hard. So, yeah, I'm really, really interested to see what they do with Escanor there. All right, so now we've done a substantial amount of Escanor glazing. Let's talk about some of the concerns with gacha and game economy. So currently in the closed beta, there is no information on the gacha drop rates or the pity. This is fairly common for gacha games that have a beta, especially if they're made by Netmarble as well, because they're just trying to gauge as much distribution data, especially with giving out a lot of gems, and see how accounts are looking after summoning a lot on this banner, and you know what things they will still need initially. There is both a hero banner, which features a lot of weapons, and the banner and someone's experience so far has been like, when you hit, it feels amazing, because the characters, even like without a secondary dupe, are awesome. They're gonna like provide that kind of core thing you need and allow your teams of various elements to get online. So even hitting one copy is absolutely huge. But like 2 out of every 3 multis, there's a lot of dead ones, man, where you're just getting like a big stack of R weapons and you're like, oh dude, this just feels very, very useless. So there's a lot of like just you need to hope get to the next SSR, and you want to hope it's the character you want to pull. Yesterday's summons are a perfect example. I was getting so salty, man. We did like about 30,000 star memories or gems worth of summons, and like I was hitting like Slater dupe, Slater dupe, Slater dupe, just SSR Slater every single time, funneling all of my luck into that. And then we eventually hit Meliodas, and it was an amazing moment. But I just imagine if I was like doing that for, you know, the first time on like a free-to-play account on the live server, and I was pulling nothing but Slater dupes, that would feel so incredibly bad. So I do feel, as of right now, with the disparity in characters and power in teams, re-rolling for the majority of free-to-play players is probably going to be a very good idea, because you can go a very long time in the summons currently just getting absolutely shafted. And if you can start off the game with Diane, you are just going to have the best time blasting through everything. If you start off a melee, you can just kind of build any team and you just like fall back to melee eventually and then heal up and you're immortal and you deal loads of damage. You're going to have a great time. I believe the Jericho team is fantastic as well. Don't know too much about King yet, but I think like reroll for Diane is probably my current advised strategy if you're going this game free to play, assuming we don't have any announced updates or changes to things. Like Diane, I think, is going to be the kind of big carry character for a lot of people, and I think re-rolling will be somewhat required if you want to be able to circumvent bad RNG. So I'm curious to see the strategies that occur when it comes around to the actual launch of the game, because yeah, it looks like you will want to tunnel one of those main characters because they are going to do a ridiculous amount of work in your roster. Now, the second thing is the limited weapon draw. This is the second banner. They also have, on top of weapons and many, many weapons, again, like, I don't know, 85-90% of your regular draws are weapons. They also have a weapon banner, so you can't get the best tier of weapons in the sub in the regular banner. You got to summon on a different banner if you want to get all of the golden, shiny, super insane weapons. So yeah, this is the whale milking banner, dude. This is where, you know, the whales are going to go to min-max and get their weapons and additional copies of those weapons to fuse in. So far, none of the tuning has been so oppressive that it feels like any of these are necessarily needed to clear the content, but it's closed beta. Things could change, additional difficulties could come in, but the balancing so far feels very, very fair in terms of progression. And again, there's a lot of additional factors with all of these bosses where you can bring in additional people Or if you know your friendly neighborhood whale and are like, dude, could I just get carried in this? Like, they can just come in, blast the boss for you, and then you can both claim the rewards as well. So yeah, I think this one is definitely here for milking the big blubbery boys. And yeah, it's just a thing. Like in every single gacha game that's released in the last 5 years, they have a weapon banner. Overall, I did just prefer the summons in Grand Cross. Like the whole animation, the sequence of Meliodas fighting the Albion dude is just, one of the greatest summon animations of all time. The summon animation in here is like, it's just a bit lacking in comparison to the thematics of that one. So yeah, personally, I'd really love to see them redo the summon animation and make something that was on the level of Grand Cross, but even better. I want to see them take something like that and go the extra 9 yards. But yeah, instead they have this incredibly weird thing with hourglasses. It doesn't look bad, but I just love the Grand Cross summons animation, man. It is really, really cool. But yeah, that is it for a bit of a talk about some of the things that I think are potentially going to be a bit of a problem. One additional thing that I think may be an issue as well is that the game economy as a whole in this closed beta seems quite early. There seem like they're missing vendors for various boss token trade-in, and we're also missing kind of a good organic way to farm gold and experience. Because currently in the beta, you've just been given so many free gems every single day to just turbo boost your progression. It's like a 7-day beta. It's going very, very fast. So one thing that worries me is just the organic ways to get the experience potions, the Supreme Mastery XP and gold. I do have my concerns about that, because before I got the drop on my first day of playing, I kind of reached a point where I felt very frustrated by like the lack of golden XP, but that was after like a 14-hour day of grinding and not really knowing where to kind of put my time and attention. So yeah, I don't want that to feel oppressive early game, and without changes, I believe it did. So yeah, that's one thing I just want to see resolved as well. And even right now, I couldn't really tell you where to go if you want to farm golden XP, aside from doing the Werebear Chieftain and some of the easy world bosses as well. But he's kind of like the easiest one to do. And the XP rate isn't amazing, and you need a lot of experience, dude. You need so much experience to level up characters in this game. It really is quite crazy. Getting them to level 30 is very easy. This is kind of like the initial push you'll make on any character as you get their mastery up to 30. And this one takes like, I don't know, like 9 epic potions or something. This one, even if you're just like farming bosses, like incredibly easy to do. But then once you get past that, you get to like the big XP region and you need, just like hundreds and hundreds of the purple potions. And a lot of these are being given out via the closed beta testing at the moment. So we are having all of these supplemented, but there just doesn't seem kind of a good organic way to grind a sufficient amount of these in the game currently. I just don't know where to look. And I understand it's going to involve like spending these reward keys to get them. And there's also a lot of things to farm with the reward keys as well. So yeah, I just want to say to any Netmarble employees or devs that are watching, like, please don't make experience and gold like a pain in the ass for early game. Just kind of like buff the drop rates for the bosses. It'd be really nice to see kind of more experience potions added, because none of these bosses, they have some of like the limit break materials you need. Like Red Demon is where you farm these tokens, and these are used for kind of limit breaking your mastery there. But yeah, no XP potions. So it would be great, because these bosses, they're good to farm. They have a lot of rewards, different equipment, all sorts of things, but a bit of experience, because experience and gold just appear to be really, really significant bottlenecks in the game currently. You just need a lot of them. And without these beta drops, I just know there's not like a great way currently to farm experience and gold. A lot of people are just like hard gem buying with the, you know, tens of thousands of gems you're getting. It's just the meta is just buy a lot of experience potions and a lot of gold and like not have to worry about it that way. So yeah, a little bit of a ramble there, but I just really want to see them get the early game economy right so that people can enjoy like the first like 50, 100 hours of playing this game and just be really excited to like pull characters, build out their teams, but then also have the ability to look forward to getting those new characters that are coming as well and not feel like constantly strained on resources. So yeah, that's a really big one. And this game overall, dude, is just, it's a really weird one. You will find just so many things in this game that are super, super random. There's like this point in the early questing story where you can just sail boats. And in this game, we have boat travel. Like, that exists. There's just so many like weird features, and I'm probably going to miss like 10, 15 in the video. We got fishing as well, but there's like a lot of weird things for you to explore the more time you spend kind of going around the world, especially Leonis as well. But the fact that even we have, you know, things like this, like naval ships, we can like sail around. Like, could we ever see anything kind of built on that in the future? Who knows, dude? Who the hell knows where this game is going to go? Maybe this is the only use for it throughout the entire game, and then it's going to be nothing else whatsoever. But yeah, I just think like stuff like this, man, is just really cool. It's just really, really awesome that that exists. And yeah, you also have swimming as well, diving. You can explore the bottom. There are certain characters that like Drake as well, one of the OCs. If you get this character, you can see maybe on my mini map in the top right hand corner, maybe you've noticed this actually if you've been attentive throughout this video, actually marks all the treasure chests. So various characters you get alongside Bug and other you know, help with open world gathering and exploration and just finding a variety of things. So yeah, it's pretty cool how various characters come together and just do you know, very weird and interesting things for the open world experience. Now, there is also one final thing that we got to talk about, which is the performance, the optimization, the stability of this game, because in the beta, and this is a closed beta, right? It's what the test is for. In my 55 hours of playing, I've probably had about 10, 15 crashes. But I've also had a lot of like stuttering, especially when there's a lot going on visually. If it's a boss fight, it's chaotic. There have been encounters where it just, you know, my frame rate goes like -10. And this can also be especially bad sometimes in co-op. If you push like the full 5 people into co-op, it can really not be a great time. 2 or 3 seems to be all right if you've got a fairly decent PC. And this is also an additional thing as well. This beta test is happening on PC and it's happening on PS5. PS5 appears to have some overheating issues in various areas. And PC, this game is relatively intensive, even on lower settings as well. I'm currently actually playing on the low graphic difficulty. Low graphic setting for this game. So yeah, this is what it looks like on low. And when it comes to this game running on mobile, I'm curious to see it, because I believe a lot of the demos at conventions have been on PC, and this game is flagged to be on mobile, PC, and also PlayStation as well. So I kind of have my concerns about, okay, this is the closed beta, but it's also the final beta before they want to launch the game at the end of January. In this one, there is no mobile build whatsoever. Like, how does this game play? If there are, you know, overheating issues happening on PlayStation 5, like, how does it look? How does it play? How does it feel on mobile? On my PC, which is relatively beefy, it feels good, but again, I have had those problems with stuttering and frame rate drops and just all sorts of weird issues that have occurred throughout it. I would say Again, it hasn't been enough to hinder my enjoyment, but it does happen like every few hours. I will notice something happens. You know, my frame rate starts dropping. I need to restart the game, or I just hit like some sort of random crash at some point as well. So yeah, I have my concerns with like how that is going to play out in the long term. Because yeah, we just have no visibility whatsoever on mobile and what the requirements are going to be, because I would imagine even on mobile, like it's going to be fairly intensive and probably block out a lot of like mid to lower end devices and require something like one of the newer iPhones in order to run this and actually have an enjoyable experience. So yeah, I'm a bit worried by like not having a mobile beta for this game. But yeah, I would imagine and assume at this point in development, they've kind of locked all of their features and content. They are just focusing on the optimization, the bug fixing, the final economy tweaks to make, and everything, you know, that is just adjusting a variable in some way, shape, or form. But yeah, we're gonna have to see. So overall, I really like Origin. It is, it's a fun game, man. It is a fun game. If you like Seven Deadly Sins, if you like just smashing through characters, seeing some of the iconic demons and opponents from the Seven Deadly Sins games and anime from the last few years, man, it feels like a trip down memory lane. It feels really, really nice. But again, this is also a game that caters so heavily to my personal nostalgia as well. Like, I am a big MMO enjoyer. I love multiplayer games. I love Seven Deadly Sins. I love kind of like quirky action-based combat systems. So yeah, I've been having a really good time so far, and I would recommend when this game does come out, just give it a try. You know, see if it's your cup of tea, and just play Hauser. Play a lot of Hauser in the early game, and I think you'll have a great time. Hauser feels really, really good to play. The other characters, Slater feels alright, but his range kind of sucks. But yeah, if you're stuck and you just want to plow through things, play Hauser when you get your hands on Origin. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you enjoyed an excessive amount of waffling in today's video, and a bit of a look at some of the weird features in Seven Deadly Sins Origin. Thank you all very much for watching. Take care, and I hope that you have an absolutely fantastic day.
You are not subscribed to the whale sin of spending? Who decided that? Subscribe now, or enjoy the bitter taste of regret.